Now, that goofy dog on my run couldn't care in the slightest about my seriousness. And he's also completely oblivious, I must say, to the oncoming traffic or any apparent danger. Completely ignorant of what could be and has almost been his plight with an oncoming car. Most mornings I am touched by his goofiness, and I can also feel myself rise in irritation that his bounding presence gets in the way of my running and distracts me and my very well-behaved leashed dog from the task at hand. Oh, and here's the kicker. Because I'm now familiar with this goofy black dog, now that I'm conscious of him, now that I know him, of course I have to worry about his little life, and I see how close to danger that he really is. So once we've taken the fruit from the tree of knowledge, once we know the dangers in this world, the good and the evil, the responsibility of taking care of ourselves and another, once we know the risks involved in being alive, joy seems to become more and more fleeting, and it flows like water through our grasping hands. Once we've lost our innocence of being provided for, once we are no longer free from responsibilities and must toil in the world in order to take care of ourselves, literally or emotionally, we cannot return to that state of innocence again. In my conversations with many of you this week, there seems to be a hint of longing, though, of wanting to return to that state of blissful ignorance and freedom again. But we cannot. So this morning, I want to talk about what we can have. See, I wouldn't trade my knowledge of the complexity of this world or the difficulties in life for anything. I crave truth. I crave what is real in this world. But knowing those things does not mean that we have to give up joy. There is room for seriousness and truth and joy. As children, joy came from this freedom and innocence. But as adults, our joy must come from a new understanding of that freedom, a richer definition of the kind of freedom that cannot be taken away from us. The freedom of the mind and of the heart and freedom of the spirit. That freedom that cannot be confined. And as adults, since we can no longer have innocence like that of a child, our joy no longer comes from that innocence. Instead, our joy must come from faith. A faith forged in gratitude and in hope. Faith that includes looking at the world as it is and claiming what is ours to be grateful for. A faith that includes the risk of opening ourselves up to love and to joy and to pain. Faith that includes the risk of being fully seen and understood by another. Then we have made room for unbridled joy. A joy that comes from suspending for just a moment our self-consciousness. A joy that comes from taking the risk of displaying your love and your enthusiasm. A joy that means opening yourself. There's something you can take away this morning, if nothing else, a mnemonic. Just open yourself. Joy. In that beautiful allegory in Genesis, the first effect of the loss of innocence is shame. As adults, we seem to be embarrassed to show our joy to one another. It's as though if we dare express our joy, we make ourselves vulnerable. Vulnerable because we might be thought of as ignorant. Vulnerable because we'll be showing another human being something that moves us, something we love. As though we are standing naked in front of God and everyone, and we are self-conscious. In that beautiful allegory in Genesis, Adam and Eve are kicked out of the garden and have to fend for themselves. And so their primary concern becomes their survival. When we are in survival mode, there is not much room for joy. The fear of death results in this fear of life in survival mode, and it can block our experience of joy. And sometimes when we are truly threatened, blocking our emotions is important for us to stay on task and get the job done. And there is work to do. An adult role imposes responsibilities for our actions and behavior from which a child is free. Because we know our time is limited, we protect ourselves in order to stay focused on the task. But this morning, consider this. The world sends us a lot of false emergencies. This world encourages us to keep on that armor, to put on a set of armor when we really don't need to. And when we wear this armor all the time, we are restrained from experiencing the joy that may, in fact, be all around us. The poet Tagore wrote, "Joy is everywhere. It's in the earth's green covering of grass, in the blue serenity of the sky, in the reckless exuberance of spring, in the severe abstinence of gray winter, in the living flesh that animates our body, in the perfect poise of the human figure, noble and upright, in living, in the exercise of all our powers and the acquisition of knowledge, in fighting evils. Joy is there everywhere, even in the exciting ring of a cell phone." So we rein in our love and our joy to protect ourselves from pain. We hold back on our dreams because we don't want to be disappointed. We remain cynical or distant so that we don't have to look foolish. But to protect ourselves from pain often means to short-circuit our ability to receive joy. We are no longer in the garden, but joy is still everywhere. We just have to do a little bit of work to pave the way for joy to enter our lives. We have to spend some time taking off the armor and opening ourselves when it is safe to do so. In meditation or prayer, in talking with someone we love, in church, I hope. We have to spend some time relishing and remembering the joy that we have experienced so that our brains and our bodies stay used to the idea of letting joy in. Used to the idea that it's okay to smile until your cheeks hurt. Or, like Whitman, to sound our barbaric yawp over the rooftops of the world. Woohoo!